Hello and welcome back to the program. Well, as I promised before the break, we're now joined by Cox Business to talk about ways you can get your business prepared for the storm and ways that you can help recover and get back open and running again following the storm. Joining me now to talk about that is Kristin Taylor. She's with Cox Business. Kristin, thank you so much for being on the show today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we heard John prior to you coming on talking about ways that you can get your family ready and your personal properties ready. A lot of people might forget about getting your business ready if you're a small business owner. What are some tips that people need to be doing now pre-storm to make sure they're ready in case a storm does come?
Absolutely. Well, if you have a storefront or you own your own business, you have to think about that too. And there are some things that you can do now to get your business prepared. One thing is checking your insurance policy. Mm-hmm. I know everybody checks their homeowner's insurance policy to make sure they're covered, but you need to check your business policy as well. Make sure that you're covered for what you think you're covered for, mm-hmm. and check that deductible and make sure that you have enough saved now or start saving now to prepare to reopen as soon as possible after a storm and get those expenses covered. One other thing you can do is make sure that all of your devices are plugged into surge protectors. Mm-hmm. We tend to plug our devices into the wall and not give it a second thought, but TVs and computers are expensive. You want to make sure that they're protected in the event of a power surge or a lightning strike. And lightning strikes can happen regardless of if there's a hurricane or not. So make sure that all your devices and especially your telecommunications equipment, your modems and such, are plugged mm-hmm. into surge protectors as well. The last thing you can do right now to prepare is put together a contact list for all of your employees. Mm-hmm. Even if you have just a small number of employees, make sure that they know who they can call in the event of them having to evacuate, that they might miss work if you're trying to reopen right after a storm, that their families are okay, that they know what the plan is if you close down for evacuation. Mm-hmm. Have those numbers ready and distribute that to all of your employees.
And that was a good point that you mentioned, that it can happen at any time. So, I guess you guys probably encourage people to plan ahead any time of year, not just during hurricane season, because as you said, a Saturday afternoon, summertime thunderstorm can definitely produce enough lightning. So now that a storm maybe has entered the Gulf and is heading this direction, what are some things business owners need to be doing? Do they need to be backing up data? What are some of the tips that they need to be thinking about to get ready for the storm?
Absolutely. Well, Cox Business customers actually have a nice ability to back up their data. Cox Business offers free online backup to their customers. You just sign into your My Account and follow the directions on how to do that. You can also program your phones to transfer to a cell phone if your phones are mm-hmm. not reachable. So say power is out at your business or for some reason there's damage and people can't call in, but you need to be able to get those calls. Mm-hmm. You can set up through the My Account portal, if you're a Cox Business customer, call forward not reachable, and they will automatically forward to your cell phone. One other thing you can do is consider maybe some managed IT services. Hosted voice is a big one where you can actually make calls from your business line from anywhere. Mm. So you can make calls from your cell phone that look like they're coming from your business line, from any computer, and that's something that can really help, especially if there's damage to your business and you can't operate there. Another potential solution is cloud-based solutions. Mm-hmm. Cox Business recently acquired a company called Rapid Scale, and they are a premier cloud solutions-based company where they offer services like remote desktop, to where if you are at any computer connected to the internet, you can actually log on to your work computer desktop, along with a lot of other disaster recovery potential services as well. So mm-hmm. there are a lot of things you can do now to get your business set up for business continuity throughout any disaster.
Yeah, throughout any disaster, because we've seen so many here along the Gulf Coast recently, and hopefully not many more to come. But once that disaster does strike, and we've all been impacted here along the Gulf Coast, most people, I'm sure, will probably get their homes and their personal property fixed first, or at least give the first responders time to do their thing. But once somebody is able to reach their business, what can they do? What do they need to do to get back up and running?
Absolutely. Well, if the Cox service has been interrupted in the area, we have a plan for that. Obviously, we have a plan to go in. We want to make sure that the electricity is on first, so we give the electrical companies time to turn that power back on. But once you're in your business, if you want to see if your Cox business service is working, you can unplug your equipment for 5 seconds, plug it back in. We want to encourage everyone not to unplug their equipment before leaving town if they have to evacuate. Before shutting their business down, do not unplug your equipment.
So don't unplug if a storm's coming. Leave it plugged into the surge protector?
Leave it plugged into the surge protector.
Okay.
Absolutely. You don't want to just unplug everything to turn your services off before evacuating for a storm. So when you come back in, you can unplug your equipment for about 5 seconds, plug it back in, it will reboot everything, and if service is on, your equipment should come back on. And then if there is an outage, you can report that through local numbers or through our online portal from your cell phone.
And I think that was important that you mentioned, because I know a lot of times we get questions following a storm. Cox is going to follow the power company.
Correct.
So obviously you have to have power to run your computer, TV, or what other services you may have. So we will follow, Cox will follow the power company when coming in. And so if there is an outage in your area following the storm or following the power come back on, as you mentioned, they can contact Cox or whoever their provider may be.
Exactly.
What are some other tips? Do you have any other tips or any other tidbits of information for people?
So the last thing I'd recommend is, if you're a business owner, you already have a lot on your plate. Don't put all of this prep on you. Maybe create a response team with your employees. If you have volunteers that want to help, have them put together a plan, and that will help take a lot of the maybe a lot of the stress off of you and give them an opportunity to pitch in and help create that plan. Review all of your critical processes with them and make sure that everything's covered in the event of coming back from a storm. You can get up and running as quickly as possible.
You know, that is a fantastic suggestion. I mean, we're sitting in this room where you see that. You know, you see all these different people with different assignments coming together to get it taken care of, and that's a great idea to have your employees do the same. So, Kristin, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. And thank you for tuning in. Join us next month as we take another look across the Gulf Coast.